NHL Insider reveals an update on the Hronek extension talks with the Canucks, and I have a few comparables on what his contract might look like. I'll get into this later on this episode. Before I start, I just want to say, to 1,000 of you watching that aren't subscribed, if you're enjoying this Canucks updates daily, then make sure to go down, hit that subscribe button, never miss another episode because we'll be here all season long giving you updates from all around the Canucks. But with that, let's hop straight into the first topic today, which is Insider reveals update on the Hronek extension. Now, Frank Seravalli did do a interview with Canucks Army, and he did speak on the Hronek extension talks and everything in between. So in this, he does say, I told you guys all along, I've been super consistent saying that Filip Hronek's next deal will start with an 8. I don't know if it's going to be Vancouver, but I'll start with an 8. I don't think there's anything happening right now. I don't think there's been any negotiations. I've read some of the breathless reporting that takes place over the last 2 weeks. Some of it's wildly inaccurate. I don't think there's been anything rejected. They haven't done anything past conversations, which has been very cordial. Any speculation about Hronek getting in line behind Hughes on the salary cap is also pure nonsense. That's like comparing a Prius and a Corvette. We're not comparing two similar things in the sense that Hughes deal chewed up a bunch of RFA years. The next contract, Hronek, let's pretend to be 8 years, will chew up 7 UFA years and 1 RFA. It's like dealing apples and oranges. So the big thing with this is Frank does kind of say on how he thinks this contract's going to start with an 8. I know that's a real tough pill to swallow for a lot of Canucks fans, but he does make a point to say that with a guy like Hughes, it did eat up a couple RFA years. With Hronek, it is only eating 1 RFA year and eating up multiple UFA years. So this might result in him not getting another huge contract at the end of this deal like a guy Quinn Hughes will get. He does continue on to say, in terms of the Canucks and from Hronek's perspective, it's an interesting spot because one key point is to look at here. What is Hronek's arbitration number if we're going to get to that point? That would be a really tough spot for the Canucks, not like the one Pettersson situation. If he goes to arbitration, he's looking at a 1-year deal that walks him into free agency, and you have to keep in mind that they'd give up what they'd have to give up to get him. The best I can tell from looking at this, a pure counting sets, minutes played, all those things, he's looking at somewhere between 7.5 and 8 on a pure arbitration case on a 1-year deal. Why would he take less than that on an 8-year deal when your cap is going up and leaps and bounds after that? So another thing to look at with this, with Hronek signing his extension, yes, Hughes did take a cheaper deal than what Hronek might be kind of speculated to be getting, but the cap is rising. Hughes signed this before the cap would jump up, and we're going to see multiple jumps. So even if he does sign more for Hughes, this might be a situation where the cap percentage is lower than what Hughes ultimately did sign for. He does continue on, and they asked him on this, is Rutherford the type of manager who would look at this and want to explore other options, or are they married to this player because of what they give up for him? Frank continues on to say, one thing that stands out to me is the same pieces were already in place last year for this team. Pettersson was here, Demko was here, Hughes and Miller were here. They're all only a few addition outliers. Hronek, to me, in terms of looking at their play, I think it's been mutually beneficial for both Hughes and Hronek, not just a one-sided thing. This has been the best partner for Hughes has had by wide margin, and if you look at Hronek's numbers throughout his career, he's almost always been a half-point per game defenseman. The fact that 35 has 45 points this year are at even strength, and he is about to pass this in career total points. To me, what are you going to find another right-handed defenseman that fit this well with your superstar defenseman? Now, this one thing I do want to point out, we did see a guy like Luke Schenn look incredible next to a guy like Quinn Hughes. We've seen guys like Tanev kind of speculated coming to Vancouver. The big thing with this is on a guy like Luke Schenn, if you do bring him back, or a guy like Chris Tanev, if you do bring him in free agency. These guys are a lot older, they have a lot more wear and tear, and they might not fit with a guy like Quinn Hughes. And if you're going to end up paying them just a buttload of money to come in during free agency, or if you do trade for a guy like Luke Schenn, then you're going to hope that they do end up fitting when you do have a guy that already fits. Frank continues on, and I know there's a lot of screenshots. This is the last one of quotes. Look at it solely from Hronek's perspective, as it's a good fit here his fit here in Vancouver has been good. And by the way, I think he loves it here. He's only 1 year away from being able to call his own shots and choose his own free agency at the time when he's played very well. What's the incentive to take a major discount and what would already be a pretty high arbitration number? That's the part and people and fans get twisted about. They don't like the idea of his number starting with 8, but that's what the market bears and what's going to bear moving forward. Let's hypothetically say it's 8 by 8. You're going to say right now it's probably fair for both players, both player and the team, but the longer that 8-year deal goes on and the cap climbs north of $100 million, 8 Sullivan begins to look team friendly at 3 years when he's 29 years old. I think this is going to surprise people in terms of how it plays out. Once I said this is going to go up. The cap is slowly climbing. We're out of the COVID years. We're out of having to pay back whatever the NHL lost. This cap is going to go up. So with a player signing, you want to look at Hronek in the sense of, hey, we'd sign you for the 8 by 8 before we sign you on a $7 million or 7.5 for 2 to 3 years, because with the cap going up, it's just going to drive this price up. Yes, the Canucks have a bunch of guys to sign. I mean, Elias Lindholm, who I covered yesterday, is another player they need to sign. But the big thing with this is, if you can get a long-term deal, like Frank said here, this contract will start to look team-friendly by year 3, 4, even 5, when the Canucks are still in their prime and looking to chase the cup. Now, when you do look at Filip Hronek, I'm just going to look at this year's stats. In 69 games, he has 5 goals, 40 assists, 45 points, a plus 31. The big thing with this is that a lot of people might not know. 5-on-5 stats, if you look at purely who leads the league in 5-on-5 assists, you look at Filip Hronek is sitting at number 8. This is behind guys like Connor McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon, Draisaitl, Quinn Hughes, Tim Stützle, Max Domi, which is kind of an outlier, and then Filip Hronek. This is one of the most elite passing defensemen. You see him up among leaders of like Connor McDavid, where he just sits less than 20 points behind. These guys are elite, and once again, I do truly believe Hronek is elite, and like Frank said, this is a guy that's not only piggybacking off Hughes, Hughes is benefiting from Hronek as well. We've seen this whole season, this pairing looks like one of the best, if not the best, defensive pairing in the league. So why let him walk? And what is he really going to cost? Is he going to cost 8, 8.5? I do have some comparables here, just to kind of talk through with you guys. And the big thing is you look at a couple of guys. The first one being Sergachev. So Sergachev, in the year he signed, 78 games played, 7 goals, 31 assists for 38 points. He got an 8-year extension, 8.5 in 2022. He signed at the age of 25, and this took up 10.3% of the cap. Now, when you do look at a guy like Hronek's numbers, yes, he has more points, but the big thing with Sergachev is Sergachev had cup experience. This guy played in the playoffs. He's made runs with Tampa. He's won cups with Tampa. This is something that a guy like Hronek does not have yet, so maybe we're not going to see the 8.5. But then you can look at another guy like Vince Dunn, who I've talked about before as well. Vince Dunn, in the year he signed, which was just last season, he signed for $7.35 million after finishing the season with 81 games played, 14 goals, 50 assists for 64 points. Now, once again, this guy doesn't have the experience that Sergachev has, and when you do look at the contract comparables, it is just about and just over a tiny bit of $1 million. So I really do think a guy like Hronek might be looking for a ballpark range just between these two. Maybe he takes 8 on the dot like Frank is saying, maybe it's 8.1, whatever it might be. I do think this is a guy we need to sign, and yes, like I said, this is not going to sit well with a lot of Canucks fans. I hate to say that giving up $8 million is the best cause, but you're not going to get a better right-handed defenseman for free, which they do have right now. Yes, they had to give up pieces to get him, but you're going to go out and end up overpaying for a guy like Chris Tanev. Even though I'd love Chris Tanev on the team, I'd love for him to come back, take less than Tyler Myers, and fill in the right-handed spot. I don't think Chris Tanev can come in and give you what Hronek can give you for the next 8 years. Yes, you have guys like Zadorov you have to sign, but once again, a right-handed defenseman that fits with Quinn Hughes is what this team needs, and they have it right now. So I think the best bet, get this contract done, give him the max amount of years, drop the cap as much as you can, wait till this is a team-friendly deal, and just continue pushing for the cup. Now, what's your thoughts on this? Do you think that I'm kind of just talking nonsense? Do you think an 8x8 is way too much? Would you rather maybe a 7x8? Would you rather just an 8.5 by 5? Whatever it might be, let me know down in the comments. Talking about comments, I did want to start a new thing with this channel, and that is comment of the day. So comment of the day from Dave says, the Canucks have not been the same since Dakota Joshua went down. I can't say this is anything more than coincidence, and it doesn't make sense to me, but it's still a thing I've noticed. And honestly, I think a lot of fans are here with you too. It seemed like he was kind of that little wrecking ball in the bottom six that really energized this team. The third line hasn't looked the same without him. And I know the Canucks have semi-struggled. They're playing just as I'm recording this. But with them struggling, I think once Dakota Joshua gets back into this lineup, we're going to see a big, new, energized team once he gets stapled back onto that third line. So what's your guys' thoughts on that? Do you think Dakota Joshua not being in the lineup is the reason why they're struggling? How much would you give Hronek? What's your thoughts on Frank Seravalli's comments? And what's your thoughts on keeping comment of the day for each and every episode? So I can kind of just showcase what you guys have been saying down in the comments and just give you guys recognition. But with that, that'd be it for this episode of Canucks Digest. If you haven't liked, subscribe. If you haven't left a comment, make sure to go down, do that. If you haven't enjoyed this, then I'm sorry, and I hope you enjoy next episode. Other than that, take care.